this computer, and I'm going to let everyone in. Give just a moment. There's quite a few people, so let them load in. And okay, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. It is 6:06. Let's call this meeting of the Ellensburg School Board Directors to order. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. If you would like to make a comment to the board, you may do so by publicly tonight. There will be a link in the chat box to a Google form. Please sign up using the Google form. And then that is how you will be recognized in the public comment section of tonight's meeting. You may also send us an email at board@esd401.org. All board members receive that email at the same time. Please, if you would like a reply, please ask for one. We are getting a lot of emails. And thank you for that. Let's please move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. I would like to take this time to introduce the board members who are present tonight. Jason White, Hilda Pena Alfaro, Meg Ludlam, Dan, Olivia Bertham Cook, and Jaden Burrows. We are also joined by Superintendent Haver and various district administrators. We will now go on to the consent agenda.
I would note that there are some amendments and to the minutes, and would move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Dan and a second by Jason. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Then with a roll call vote, Dan?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Meg?
Aye.
Hilda?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The consent agenda with amendments is accepted. Moving on to 3A. 3A and 3B, I believe, will be presented on at the same time. The Highly Capable I-Grant and the Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program I-Grant. I believe this is Kelly Kronbauer will be presenting on this. I'm trying to find out where Kelly is so that he can come off of mute.
All right, sorry about that. My computer totally just locked up there for a moment. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're good to go. All right. So I think I am made a co-host here. I am responsible to do all of the special programming grants, and the grants are done through the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. They have an iGrants portal in the EDS program. And so I do probably 20 of these grants, which is basically how we acquire our money for programming. And that's how we push it out to buildings and kids are served. There are a couple programs that require me to bring our programming before you. So out of the 20 that are required, 2 of them only require me to take it and get school board approval to prove that I have shown you what we're doing and what we put into the grants. So that is what I'm going to do here today. Let me go ahead and see. First of all, I've got a little glitch here going on, so I apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to pop up a PowerPoint for you. Yeah, my PowerPoint crashed crashed on me. All right, let's hope this works. I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen. Let's give it a try. All right, can you see the screen?
Yep, we can see your PowerPoint.
Great. Close that. I'm going to go ahead and slide it. Okay, so this is the iGrant School Board Review. There are two grants. There's the Highly Capable Grant and there's the Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program Grant. And both of these, as I said, require me to just go over the basic plan with you. They're not very user-friendly, and so I decided that I would throw together a quick PowerPoint just to kind of walk you through it. I'm kind of afraid, I actually want to click on these links and show you what the grant looks like, but I'm not sure that it's going to pop open. Can you see the grant now? I don't think you can. I apologize. I'm going to have to, rather than actually click off of it, I'm just going to close it. I'm just going to continue. So first of all, the Highly Capable Grant has, I believe, 6 pages to it. And pages, so there's a lot of things in here. Page number 1 is about assurances. This is basically where the state says the school district will do the following things, and we are responsible to basically adhere to all of the state and federal laws around highly capable and around education. And then page 2 is about definitions. So there's really nothing on those pages other than just all of the state and federal regulations and defining what is highly capable. Page 3 is identification. And this page is about public notices, the district's responsibility with highly capable program that we are required to send out public notices to our community. So we actually put notices on our website, on our Facebook. We oftentimes will run a advertisement in the newspaper defining what is our referral process. So how does a student get into the highly capable program? They could be referred through a various group of stakeholders. It's pretty broad, and I'll get into that a little bit more here in a moment. We have rules around parent permission, so we can't even screen or look at a student without a parent agreeing to that. And then we have what is called a screening process. So a screening procedure, how do we look at kids and decide you are highly capable? And then we also have formal assessment process, which usually involves, always involves cognitive assessments to measure various aspects of a student's intellect. So page 4 is about continuum and variety of program services. So in our school district, one thing we're doing this year, our highly capable coaches have created individual learning plans. This is new to the district this year. They've been in practice for a long time. They're not necessarily required, but they are really, really good for kids and really good for families. So each one of our coaches will sit down with the parent and the student and go over what the learning plan would be. So in our district, there are 4 things that we can provide highly capable services through. The first one is through general education. This is actually the most popular model right now. As we look at inclusion and equity, we're looking also at not necessarily just pulling kids from highly capable programming into a separate room, like not pulling special ed kids into a separate room or not pulling ELs into a separate room, but trying to provide services in the general education classroom. And how we're doing that is through differentiation, through what is called cluster grouping, meaning if we've got 5 4th graders that are all highly capable, we'll probably try to put those 5 together or maybe do a 3 and a 2 split in different classrooms so those kids have other kids like them in the classroom to work with, through enrichment activities and through content acceleration. What they mean by that content acceleration is math, ELA, science. Basically what we're doing is we're going to take a kid who maybe is a 3rd grader and we're going to put them in a 4th grade math class, or you know, if they should be in algebra, we might jump them into geometry, that type of thing. So all of that happens in general ed, and that is where we are heading as a district, although we do offer unique HCP or highly capable program services in K2, in 3-5, and in 6-12. And this is what we've done all along, and we're still continuing to do that. We've always had a We've always bused our students in 3rd through 5th grade up to Mount Stewart. This year, because of COVID, we are not busing and pulling kids out for a whole day, but we are doing highly capable program services in each building. So our K2 highly capable teacher does a pull out there in each grade level. And then our 3 through 5 in each building also get that. And then in grades 6 through 12, what we do is we take all of our highly capable kids and we do have them in the same advisory with the same advisory teacher. And we offer them some unique supports for highly capable there. We have acceleration services. That means that basically we can promote a kid ahead or pull them up grade levels in ELA, in math. It could be in science even. We have college and high school classes. We have running start. So when we look at it through a continuum of K through 12, we have a lot of opportunity for acceleration, more naturally embedded in the secondary school than in the elementary school. That's where we focus more on differentiation in the elementary school. How do we differentiate what we're doing with kids to extend the learning and to challenge with more rigor for those elementary kids? And then finally, the last program that we offer here for highly capable is the non-traditional program. This is things like highly capable kids having special mentorships with businesses or internships or participating in clubs or academic or CTE competitions, things like that. So these are the 4 main areas of service for highly capable. Any questions on those?
Oops. Where did we go?
Meg, you're not on mute.
Okay.
Nope, now you are on mute, Meg. Now you're not. Yep, nope, now you are. So
Okay.
there.
I didn't realize that we still had the unique, highly capable services, the pull-out programs and the advisory.
Yeah, there's less. You know, what we did in previous years, especially in 3 through 5, is that we pulled, you know, if we had a 4th grader, they got to go to Mount Stewart for a whole day. So they missed the entire day of their regular class. They went up and they were with Mrs. Hughes for the entire day with that. Because of COVID, we really can't do that. We'd have too much cross-contamination with Lincoln, Mount Stewart, and Valley View kids all in the same classroom as we're trying to, you know, separate kids. So we saw it as a way that we would, rather than totally get rid of it, we would try to go into the buildings and pull by grade level and by specific classes. So it is much shorter. I think every group gets like 40 minutes a week, but it is something. It's not like devoid of not getting it at all. We wanted to try to do that for our families and our kids. We know that it's pretty limited compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, I thought that we had actually ended that program, but apparently I'm mistaken.
We've talked about it. There's a lot of programs out there that are doing it under the general education aspect using differentiation and cluster grouping. And we're kind of like doing both right now with the hope of growing it. But when the pandemic hit, it kind of put a lot of challenges ahead of us when it comes to running that program. And so we're kind of on hiatus, and I'm not really quite sure where we're going to land with it. I think we're moving towards trying to provide more. One thing, as well as our 2 highly capable teachers who are amazing teachers, they have really become more like coaches this year. So although they're leading smaller groups, they're coaching other teachers. And so they're going in and they're working with grade levels and saying, hey, you know, Susie's in the highly capable program, and really helping to coach the gen ed teacher in how to provide the rigor, extend the learning for those kids. That is another kind of model shift we're working towards. Okay, so page 5 is about goals and monitoring. Mostly we're required to just tell the state what does program administration and operation look like. So the policies, the expenditures, the procedures, the goals, the communication, and services. How are we looking at our program? Oops, sorry about that. And then program evaluation. So how do we look at our program and say we're successful? We look at grades and tests like AP, district assessments, report cards, and state assessments. We look at our students to determine how well they're doing. We have qualitative data like staff and student data. We have surveys that we mail out to our parents and our students. And then we look at other things like attendance and program participation. And the I-grant requires us to write all this out. So I'm just kind of giving you what's in the I-grant real quick. And then the page 6 is about school board approval. So I can tell you right now that we have about 226 students identified K through 12 in our highly capable program. And at the end of today, when Matt is done with all of the meeting minutes and everything, and they get uploaded, I will then upload it to the state to prove that I talked to you about it. And then finally, the last page of this grant talks about equitable identification. And for the last 3 or 4 years, this has been a very big topic because we have found that in the past, highly capable has been very non-diverse, meaning, and as you've talked about even in the study session, we talked recently about, you know, families that have some resources or different levels of resources and education and so forth, also then have the ability to know how to access programs like this. And so we're trying to level the playing field, and this is how we're doing it. As a district, we're identifying systemic barriers. We are providing a universal screener for all second grade students, and we're using a nonverbal test. It is called the NNAT3. And why are we doing a nonverbal test? Because we don't want to discriminate against kids, second language kids. So this screener is a really nice tool to be able to, we're testing every second grader. So we're looking at every kid. There's not a kid that doesn't get it, with the hope that if they qualify, then we'll move them along, and that it's not going to depend on whether a parent or someone nominated the student. We're looking at every kid. We're looking at special considerations for ELs. So we look at our students and their scores, and we look at English language learners, and we give them special consideration. We also try to assess them at their home school, meaning that we're not making them go to a strange new building to take tests. We're doing those assessments in the home or in the home school. The program information then is included in our enrollment process. So every time a parent enrolls or gets to the enrollment portal, they also have all of the information about highly capable and how to apply for it. There's a variety of stakeholders who can nominate for referrals. So it's, you know, let's say that there's, you know, 5 fourth grade teachers, and we know that 2 of them are really into highly capable and they're nominating a lot, but the other 3 aren't. You know, it's not just the teacher that does it. It could be a community member. It could be a parent. It could be anybody who feels that a child is maybe showing some signs of exceptionality that can actually refer a child. And then finally, information about gifted indicators are shared with staff. So every year we have a time where we really work on referrals, and we make sure that staff understand what are the gifted indicators. What do you need to look for in a student to determine if they are gifted?
Could you
Okay.
speak a little bit more on special considerations to ELs?
Yeah, so, you know, to be honest with you, that's something that we're working through. I can tell you, and this is a challenging topic. Lots of districts do it differently. But basically, if we have we are absolutely looking at the English language learners and looking at their scores. And I know that sometimes there are different cut scores, and you see this on the SAT or the ACT even, where if someone comes from a different demographic, they will have a different number for them or a different qualifying category. I can't speak exactly how that's done since the teachers do it, but I can tell you that we are looking at ELs, and we are determining who is an EL, and we might take a look at someone who might be on the cusp of qualifying, and if we know that they're an EL in the second language, that might boost them over the top.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Kelly, if I could. So we've certainly identified as a board that we are looking for more robust identification of our students that would fit in this program. Can you remind me or us, how many years have we assessed every second grader?
I think we're on our 2nd year, maybe our 3rd. Forgive me, I've only worked here for 1 year.
I know, sorry.
1.5 years, but I think we're in our 2nd year. I think we started that last fall. I could be wrong, it might be 2, but it's, you know, before that, not much.
I think it's a little more than that, because that was a big push when I got on the board about, what was it, been 5 years ago now. You
know what? Let me restate that. I might actually probably agree with you, although I wasn't here. What I can tell you is 2 years ago, we moved to the nonverbal assessment because
Okay.
the assessment we were using was not equitable.
And
So I
I,
can
Okay.
tell you that I think 2 years is we've done the nonverbal test, but you're probably right.
and I
Apologize.
appreciate that, Kelly. I should have asked you that before. Sorry, I should have done that. I think it's unfair to just like throw out like, give me this
It's fine.
stat
I'll
right
just
off
make it up.
the top of your head. But that was my second question too, was how long have we done the nonverbal assessment? How long have we administered that?
Yeah, this is our second year.
And so then at some point, can we as a board get an additional report on that, seeing how has the diversity in our program changed with every second grader being tested?
Yep.
And now it's difficult because 2 years and one of them being pandemic does not a trend make. But can we put that on the list?
Yeah, and just for you to know, this year we did do a testing. In the spring, we didn't do the testing like we normally did. We did it over the summer and the fall, and a lot of families opted out of the testing because they didn't want to bring their child into the building. So we are going to do another round of testing in the spring. So our data will be a little wonky just from the assessment. I mean, people have made decisions around their comfort levels around it. But yes, absolutely. And Jen Kuntz is someone that can come along and would be able to bring that data and present that all.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. All right. Any questions about highly capable? That is it basically in a nutshell. We're doing the majority of our work in general education. We're doing a little bit of our work in more of a pullout at the elementary school. And then we still have our acceleration model where we're accelerating students in different content areas. Okay, so moving on, the transitional bilingual grant is also, it's actually, it's for any student that is a second language learner. And so we have students that come in either to the country or they come from a different language family that's not English as their native language. And so we have a program called the Bilingual Instructional Program. And so just to give you a heads up, this grant asks on page what our estimated counts are. So I can tell you that K through 5, we have 169 as of today. 6 through 12, we have 240 students. So we're roughly around 400 kids right now in the district that are considered ELs. Now we have different levels of ELs. We've got our kids who've qualified and are in the program. And then we also have students, we are required once they exit to track them for 2 years, to follow along and to make sure they're doing well. One of the challenges we're going to have this year is because we didn't do any of the state testing, it's really challenging to know how to track them, just like with most students. I mean, that's some of the bumps we've got. But page 1 is our estimated counts. Page 2, 3, and 4 talk about different instructional programs that are available through the state. There's probably 8 different models that the state allows. We are using 3, and I will explain those on the next slide. Page 5 talks about the newcomer model, and we actually don't officially run a newcomer program here. So I'm assuming most of you probably generalize what newcomer means. These are typically kids who are brand new to the country. They're completely monolingual, and they really would be pretty unsuccessful in being pushed into an English class for math or ELA or science. They need kind of a crash course in English to get them at least proficient enough with their BICs and their CALPs, so their basic communication language, so that they can then go into a gen ed classroom and receive that instruction. So oftentimes in a newcomer program, they'll be in an EL classroom for 3 to 6 months prior to going out, and that's what's newcomer. We don't actually apply for that. So when I say NA here, we don't have enough kids to just run a newcomer program, but we oftentimes do exactly that, where the language acquisition teacher will have the EL students in their class, and they will be doing separate work for those kids than maybe a lot of the other kids that are in the EL program, because they're more intensive. So just for you to know. And then page 6 is about staff qualifications. I can tell you right now through the transitional bilingual, last year was the first year that our district actually funded 5 teachers. We have a teacher in every building now that's an English language teacher, language acquisition teacher. And we also fund portions of 2 parapros across the district. And basically, we are required to designate if they meet all the endorsed requirements. And then we're also required to designate what are professional development opportunities for all staff, not to mention the professional development for EL teachers. Okay, so for you just to take a look, we've got 3 different instructional models. These are the ones that are listed. I remember I told you there were like 8 of them. We basically offer 3. We have a content-based sheltered instructional program. There's supportive mainstream, and there's what is called open doors. And really, mostly it's the first 2. Content-based sheltered instruction and supportive mainstream are very similar. A lot of people question why they even have 2 different names. But the content-based sheltered instructional program, you have to look at it from this perspective. The classes are comprised predominantly of English language learners. So when I walk into a classroom and all of the kids are ELs, that typically is what we would call sheltered. They're pulled out, they don't have a bunch of gen ed, English speaking kids in the classroom because they are receiving specially designed language instruction. Supportive mainstream is about 90% of what we do in this school district, and that is at the elementary, the middle, the high, and the alternative school. And this is where students access grade level academic content through participation in their mainstream classroom. Instruction can occur either individually or in small groups with the mainstream teacher in a push-in or a separate pull-out class. And that's the confusing part is pull-out, well, why isn't that content-based? It's kind of confusing, but mainly our kids are pushed in to a gen ed class. They have a teacher that's been trained in language acquisition strategies. And then sometimes the EL teacher will pull those kids or will push into the classroom, and there will be special academic support for those students. And then the final one is the Open Doors program. And this is for any student ages 16 through 21 who has dropped out of school but wants to come back. We have a contract with Yakima Valley Community College. They have an Open Doors program here in town. And so we have some ELs that are in the Open Doors program, and we are obligated to go and provide them language instruction even though they're in that program. Questions on the instructional program? It's riveting stuff. This is what's in the
Yeah,
yes.
we have teachers that go over to the community college. I guess that's the one on was it Mountain View?
Yeah, it's on Mountain View, I believe.
We have teachers that go down there and help older students.
I think we've done it multiple ways. I think we've had teachers that have gone down there at times on a regular schedule each week, or we have students come to us. So it just depends on the student. It depends. Oftentimes, these students might not want to come to us. They've been in they've not been in the public system for a while. So we try to be sensitive to what their needs are.
Okay.
When you talk about English language learners, how many languages are in the district?
In the district, that's a great question. I actually don't know the exact answer to that. My guess is it would probably be 10 different languages, but it would not be many of them. Like I know that we've had some, we have some families from China, some families from Japan, we have some families from Arabic countries. And then obviously our largest demographic is Hispanic here, Spanish speaking or South American. So although we might have different dialects of the same language, most of it, I would say 98% is probably Spanish, and then we have just a trickle. And oftentimes those are families that have come to the university, that are here educating or teachers at the university. Oh yeah, it's an interesting, but we are nothing like the West Side schools that have up to 150 national or different languages in their schools. It's crazy to even comprehend how that works.
So how do we serve that handful of students?
Yeah, that's, that's where the language acquisition teacher has very specific protocols. It's not even necessarily language specific. There's lots of very specific language strategies that involve visual use of visuals and images. But obviously we obviously would have to know enough about their language to be able to generalize it to English. So that's what these people do. And I'm not an EL teacher, but just lots of different strategies on how to teach a lesson in English where they can even understand it, even if it's not their native language, using various strategies. It's actually pretty brilliant. I've seen several people do it. It's amazing what you can pick up on, even if you don't know the language if it's taught correctly.
I just want to say that teaching a second language or second language acquisition, you don't need to speak the language of the person you are
Yeah, that's
teaching
right.
the language. That's
It really is in
all,
strategy.
actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep, I agree. Okay, well, that's the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. Are there any major questions about highly capable or transitional bilingual? On the PowerPoint I gave you, if you want to look at the grant, you are welcome to scroll through it. It's very long and very legalistic. It's not a very user-friendly document. I tried to take all the key pieces out of it and just explain it for you.
Both of these are action items. It's going to be 2 votes on this, 1 for each one. So let's start with 3A, the highly capable I grant.
Just a question, are these both, these are grant funded? Are they funded also in part by the legislature when they decide to give money to us?
These are all funded through education funds. They're designated just like any other funds we get. Highly capable it used to be separately funded and it has rolled into Basic Ed. It's rolled into Basic Ed and it's really not all that funded anymore. There's a little bit of money that comes with it, but it's kind of an unfunded mandate where just like any other service, we're required to provide education for all kids at all levels.
Okay.
Kelly, is there a timing aspect to when we approve these grants? Because on the work plan that I've recently prepared for the board, I have it in the spring because there are policies that dictate that it be that we review these programs in the spring. But
we evaluate the programs in the spring, yes. But we get the grant money approved and then we run through the year with our program, and at the end of the year, we evaluate the success of the program. So I don't know if that's, but typically we have the grants secured by September. This year it's a little later because of COVID. Typically I like to have it done by the end of September.
Any other questions on the highly capable I grant? The chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the grants.
I second.
So Dan has moved and Meg has seconded for approval of the highly capable I grant. Is there any further discussion? All right, then with the roll call vote, Meg,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Hilda,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
I also vote aye. We'll move on to 3B, vote on the transitional bilingual instructional program I grant.
I'll move that we approve this grant as well.
I second.
I saw you, Hilda. Dan has moved and Hilda has seconded the transitional bilingual instructional program I grant. Is there any further discussion? Then with the roll call vote, Meg,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Hilda,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
I also vote aye.
Thank you, board.
Thank you for your presentation. We're at 3C, the board budget priorities. This is a discussion that started believe it was in January, at a board retreat with Mary Furtakis, and I always say her name incorrectly. And it's continued. We're working very hard on having a budget cycle. We're also working on normalizing that conversation of a budget cycle. I don't know if we want to share this document. This is a discussion item.
No, it's an approval item.
I thought it was too, but we have it down here as a discussion item.
It's supposed to be an approval item, but
Yeah, I think we want
we
to
have discussed it.
look at it and then vote on it.
That's what I'm saying. Do we need to have it? Can we vote on it even though it says that in the agenda? Who was my, okay. Is there any discussion on the board budget priority document?
Yeah, I think we should do a little bit of background for the public. At this point, we realize that we have to basically cut about $2.5 million, correct me if I'm wrong about that, out of our budget for next year. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that the things that absolutely have to get funded because of state mandates, because of state funding, they're designated for certain things. Those have to be funded. And the other things, when we run out of money, we can't do. And so we had to, as a board, we had to set up this kind of a bullseye pattern. The things in the middle are things that we considered to be the most essential, and the things further out are things that are less essential as far as the state is concerned, in large part because they're the ones that give us the money to run the schools. So that's kind of where it's coming from right now. And you can see, I don't know if this is, I guess if the document could be shared, I think people can maybe see what we're talking about. Anyway, we've talked quite a bit about it, and our hands are really tied in a lot of respects because the state tells us what we have to do and what they give us money for.
On the other hand, I think the board worked with this pretty effectively. We listed some priorities, as Tasha said, in January or February, and I took a crack at making a list, and then Jason and Dan made it into this nice document with diagram, which I think is both more understandable and has more focus to it. So I think it's a good document for us to have, and we have discussed it and agreed upon it. And I just think it's important that we officially adopt it at some point tonight, if possible. That was the idea.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say too, I think it's also good for us all to clarify too that the board really is kind of deciding the what. How this will move forward is the district admin. So this is really the board's way to communicate, as district admin have to determine where cuts are or where the money will come from, that this is where we see the priorities. And again, I think Dan makes a really good point. The state really does dictate a lot of those things, but I think those are also in line with our board ends. I think as we look through these, I think that we are looking at that as well. And And I know when you throw a figure out there, Dan, like the $1 million that you're talking about, I know there's one question I can't remember. And so I'm going to put Ginger or admin on the spot for this one question, but will you remind me as far as, it doesn't have to be exact, but about what % of our total budget goes to staffing?
80,
What was it, Meg?
80% or more.
I think it's 84% right now.
Yeah, our last year's number, we haven't closed the books yet, so this is an estimate board, but we are between 83 and 84% right now. So it was under 80% just a couple of years ago, so it is climbing.
Yes. And I think that, I don't know, that to me, that says a lot when we're looking at like how all these programs that we're looking at and so forth, when that drastic change has happened over the last couple of years. So thank you.
This is continuation of that cycle that we've been working through as a board. We're constantly and thankfully getting updates from Brian, looking at those numbers. Thankful for board members. Meg is very good at getting in there and doing the numbers, and she created that first list. Jason and Dan continued that work. We are going to, now that we're figuring out how to work through COVID, we're going to bring that that committee back in, the budget committee back in, so that the community has a chance to work and understand this. This is all of those impacts that we've been talking about, McCleary, Levy Cliff, all of it sort of coming into one. And we realize that we've got this very large number to work with this spring, but we're also looking down the road to our next levy. And so Ginger or Brian, can you remind us on the dates of that levy and the implications of that next levy?
We know it's important, February of 2022. Brian, do you want to add to that?
Yes. So February, the calendar year 2022 is the last of our 4 years on our previous levy. It is also the same year that our 6-year capital facilities or technology levy expires. And so you will want to be probably putting that on for a vote of the people by, what is that, February of, help me out, Ginger, here.
2022.
February of 2022. You're right, Meg.
And that's something that we've been wrestling with. Right? We've known with McCleary, we've known with the levy cliff, we've known that this has been coming. We've been talking about it certainly since I was on the board 3 years ago. That was my first budget that I was presented with, and McCleary and levy have really hurt Ellensburg. Thankful to Brian for always being patient and answering those questions. Certainly looking forward to that budget committee coming forward and working on this and including the public on this. They're probably getting a bit weary of hearing us talk about McCleary and the levy cliff, but it's very, very important. And as we're looking at this, there is light on the other side because Ellensburg community gets to make a choice in 2022. Right, up until 2022, we're sort of beholden to the state. We're sort of stuck in this position where we're really going to have to make some hard decisions. And some of those hard decisions have already been wrestled with, and that's why we have this document here now. This, Matt, just for a point of clarification, we can vote on this tonight, right?
Yes, if someone makes a motion, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I move that we adopt this document as presented.
I'll second.
Meg has made a motion and Dan has seconded for the adoption of the board priorities or budget priorities. Is there any further discussion? With the roll call vote, Dan?
Aye.
Hilda?
Aye.
Meg?
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. So the budget priorities are accepted. All right, board, we are at board reports. Jason, is there a legislative report?
There is no report.
Dan, is there an early learning report?
I do have some things. We had a book giveaway last week on Wednesday, and between the drive-through part and the delivery part, we gave books to about 50 families. And these are mainly books for kids 0 through 5, and toys and tools, things that they can manipulate. And the next one is on November 18th, a Wednesday also. It'll be at noon at the Catholic Church, the south parking lot of the Catholic Church. And the other thing I wanted to remind teachers and possibly students about is that the Education Foundation, the District Education Foundation is doing mini grants this year, and the new or the regular time for mini grant applications is November 1st, but because of the COVID and the stuff that's going on, that's going to be extended to January 1st. So you have a little more time to work on your grant application if you'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaden?
Yeah, earlier this morning, Olivia and I had the privilege of meeting with Superintendent Haber, Mrs. Neboychek, and 3 of our fellow students for a student senate meeting. And we're picking up where Mackenzie and Amethyst left off to work on a cell phone policy. And right now we're in the phase of creating a form to get information on how students feel about their cell phone use and what that regulation would best look like to them. And there'll be more on it soon.
Thank you, Jaden. There is not a teaching and learning report tonight. That leads us to superintendent's report.
So I'm going to share my screen with you here. And so I am getting ready to send out my superintendent's update. So I thought I would just use it to structure the superintendent's update with the board tonight. And I don't have a special speaker like we did last time around celebrations. So this time what I'd like to do is one huge celebration, of course, that we have is that we now have all of our schools in a hybrid model with the high school starting this week. And they've had 1 day of hybrid on Monday and Tuesday. And so I'd like to talk about that a little bit and then see if board members have any questions or things that they want to add, and then I can go on with the rest of the report. We've got some exciting news to share about some of the accomplishments of our students and our clubs, and some great professional development that we're going to be able to offer as well. So after we have this discussion around the hybrid model and how things are going, I'd love to also share some of the other great things that are happening in ESD. So we do have the hybrid model in full swing, and really huge shout out and thank you. This has been a heavy lift to get it all moving, multiple hours by teachers, administrators, district staff, really all working together. But for me, I know it was great to be there on some of the opening days at the elementary schools and see the kids excited about being there. And then on Tuesday, I walked around the halls of the high school and seeing the freshmen with their with their schedule, wanting to know what room, you know, is Mrs. Bradshaw in, and different Mr. Bradshaw in some of those classrooms. And so it was exciting to see and just feel that excitement. Had some teachers share with me that, you know, it felt good to have the kids back. But we also know with hybrid, there's also risk, right? And so we did have, I emailed Dr. Larson on Monday and said, you know, do you have concerns around community spread? And he said, no significant concerns right now around community spread. And then today, I was able to be with them at noon, along with Hilda and Jason, and we have a standing noon session with Dr. Larson, where we have principals, central office staff, we have EEA reps there, and 2 board members. And every week we have a good discussion with him around, from his expertise, what is he seeing in the community with COVID? And I think the big question, well, first of all, as you know, I've put out communication when we have had a positive case in our school district, in our school. And today, again, Dr. Larson confirmed that in each of these cases, the positive cases were related to exposure that was outside of the school, not within the school. And in all four of these cases, we did not have any secondary spread at all within our schools. And he commended us for the protocols that we have in place. And I really do a shout out to our administrators and our teachers and our paras, really all working together, and our students and our families. I really believe everybody's embraced the importance of wearing masks and doing the social distancing. I think, of course, we still have some work to do. I think especially, you know, when kids are moving around in the hallways or outside, it's easier maybe to think that you're safe and don't have to quite do that 6-foot distancing. But I will say, when I was out and about and asked kids to kind of stand further apart, students were willing to do that. And the kids in particular, seemed real happy to be back in school and able to see their friends and their teachers. I think the question is, well, how come we're not looking at 75 anymore? How come that changed, right? And so Hilda asked Dr. Larson a real direct question around that. And then we had that same question came up in the 1 o'clock Zoom that I also attend. So I attend 2 one-hour sessions with Dr. Larson every week. The second one is with the other superintendents in Kittitas County. And we asked him the same question there, and he gave the same response both times. So, and that was the question of, what would you look for? What are the nuances that you're looking for if you were to say, you know what, ESD giving me a call and saying, Ginger, you know what, we're just going to have to close the schools down, or you're going to have to phase out hybrid. This is what he would be looking for. He does look at overall infection trends and infection rates. But he also looks at the number of outbreaks. And he said, you know, like if he had 2 outbreaks within one school, like within a close proximity of time, that would be a concern for him to probably close that school. And an outbreak is defined as having 2 positive cases within the same school and showing that there's an epidemiological link, that this one somehow was related to this one over here. And as you know, we did have 2 positive cases at Valley View, but there was no epidemiological link there at all. It was like 2 separate positive cases. They were not linked together, so it was not an outbreak. He also said that, you know, if over 10% of the schools had outbreaks, then he'd probably close the whole district down for 14 days. We asked him, you know, when would he be concerned about community spread? And for him, especially with a little over half of the cases still being CWU students here in Ellensburg, that if he started to see more than 1 or 2 crossover cases of community members getting COVID-19 as a result of exposure to CWU students, that would be a cause of concern for him. And he would look at asking us to modify or to just go to distance learning. And of course, if he saw secondary spread within the schools, which we did not have so far, that would be a concern for him too, that might cause him to say, you know what, I think we need to close the school for 14 days and kind of re-look at the protocols and what we need to do in this specific case. And then he said that for every single case of COVID, he always asks himself the question, you know, is this person who has it somehow related to somebody at the schools, somebody in the nursing homes? And he kind of has his list of questions that he asks himself. So I just really want to say a big thank you to Kittitas Public Health. They've been very helpful in a strong partnership. And I definitely trust the expertise of Dr. Larson, and don't even have a doubt in my mind that if he at any point thought it was not safe for us to be implementing the hybrid right now, that he would tell us. But I also know that Jason and Hilda were at that noon meeting. Is there anything else you would add to what he had to share?
Well, I would like to add that he also pointed out that the community tracing is really, really good at a 98% rate, which is very good. So we are pretty confident that they are tracing exactly where the cases are relating one to each other. So we can trust him in that way.
I think I'd like to also add too, I think, because I know in the study session, this came up, and I want to make sure other board members understand there's a lot of terms that get thrown around. And so I think a lot of people focus in on the number, because I think as a society, we look for absolutes, like where's the cutoff that we're now in the danger zone, right? And so what I've learned over the time of talking with Mark Larson is there's some terms that we need to know. And so I think I just want to spend a couple minutes. I know, Ginger, you talked about these, but I don't know if everybody knows what we're talking about. So when Mark Larson says there's no community spread, what he's meaning is that while we live in a very unique community, right? We are here with Central, and where 78, I think it was 78 of the cases to the 71 in the community, he's not seeing community spread. So meaning that that is all at CWU, it is not spreading beyond to non-CWU. And he anticipates that eventually will change, but it's not. And there's nothing demonstrating that it has. Even with this escalation, it's still no community spread. So again, that is one of the factors that the board has continued to look at, and that we listened to Mark Larson very clearly about that is why we can feel confident, keep moving forward by staying open. Another thing that he explained, so community spread is a term I think people need to start understanding if you're going to live in Ellensburg and you want to understand COVID. The other thing is secondary spread. So what that means is if there has been no secondary spread, meaning someone who is COVID positive goes into the school and then spreads it to the school, someone else in the school. This is why it's so critical that we have all of these sort of protocols established to really reduce and prevent the spread of COVID to people in our district and into our community. And so I just want to make sure we hear that. I think that's really important. I also think what might be helpful for the rest of the board and maybe even the community that's here is that Mark Larson, this is his exact words, is we really need to look at the trends of data. So I think while community members might be concerned, it's like we're above that 70, that number, we have to look at community spread, we have to look at secondary spread, we have to factor in how is Ellensburg different than other communities because of Central, because they're isolated, because of how those things are looked at there. So again, I trust public health to be able to guide us in that, and that's why we are meeting with them every week to get this information. I want to say, I truly believe this board puts safety number one. I think Ginger does too. I think we look safety of our community, our children, our teachers, our staff. We want that. So I believe that is the focus. He also, I love to use his quotes. He said, no transmission within the school. So while these things, I think, again, I applaud our teachers. I applaud our staff members for their preparation, their hard work, all the things that they've done and continue to do to try to really prevent any further spread. I know these are hard times, so but I hope that kind of helps. I don't know. I want to open it up to the board, like, because I do feel privileged to be able to go to those meetings. I think it's important that everyone knows who's at those meetings. It is not just Hilda and I and Ginger. It is a large part of the administrative staff. I think every principal, I think I see almost every assistant principal. I specifically see the union reps for the teachers there. So it's a wide range of individuals there to ask the questions and to really understand why the district is taking the stance that we're doing and why the protocols that we are doing. I'll be quiet, I promise. This is very important. I think the last thing I'd just say, and I'm not going to share screens, even though I'd love to. I'm actually I'm working on the safety and health management certification at CW right now. So it's just perfect timing.
Awesome.
So one of the things that I'm learning is the hierarchy of controls. So within the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, there are specific hierarchies of control that are used when we look at safety in the work environment. And I've been reviewing this because I'm just like, how's the district doing? And it's really interesting to see all of the steps that the district has incorporated into those things. From the lowest level to the mass, to the barriers, to, anyway, I'm probably taking too much time, but I just think this is what we need to understand and what we're moving forward with. And I think just to sum it up, the lowest level of those hierarchies of control are the protective equipment, which are the masks, but then it's the administrative controls. I mean, you think about the hybrid model. I don't think everyone in the community understands that a third of our students are not in the schools, right? They're in the hybrid, they're in the distance learning, and that leaves 2/3. Then you take that 2/3 and you divide them in half, and now you've got only 1/3 of the students in the school. Then the school has gone beyond that to implement engineering controls, which is again another hierarchy of controlling and putting in safety measures, is where they've taken out furniture, they've used larger rooms, they've done all these intentional ways to and put out the little places where people stand. All of those things that have been implemented have been very intentionally done. I was at the high school when they opened. I can only applaud how much work the staff and teachers have done. I'm so impressed. It's been a heavy lift. It's been a hard time. There's no doubt that they've worked really hard on this. I think I can only say great things. I know this is hard. So anyway, sorry, I know I talk too long, but I just feel really passionate about safety. I feel really passionate about how our district is moving forward in that and how we're assessing it and how we're looking at it. So yeah, board, are there other questions? I want to make sure that you all understand what the district is going through to do that. The last thing I'd say is I think often when we think of safety, we think of it as absolute, meaning in order to be safe, it has to be 100%. And he was really, and I think that's clear. That's why when I think people look at a number, they want us, I think I want a number, right? Because then I can say, well, we'll be safe if we're there at that number. That is not an answer. And Mark Larson was really clear about that. There isn't a magic number that's going to provide safety. 100%. What is being done is to try to that hierarchy of control to eliminate every potential way that we can try to protect, or not eliminate, but to protect everyone that we're working with. Anyway, sorry you all, I talked too long.
So I'm going to open up for board members. I do want to tag on one thing though, and just to build on something that you said, Jason, and that is, there really isn't 100%, but we do need to be really intentional with where we know there might be greater risks, for example. And so he did also mention that the group that we really need to do some extra teaching with, a group that if he were to say he was concerned about a group in our system, he said it was like our 15 and older kids. And so I know that Bo and the team and teachers are really working with students to understand their responsibility outside of school to stay safe and not to be grouping and doing some of the things that maybe have caused some of the infection rate to go up, for example, with CWU students. And so really working with the older students to understand their responsibility in their responsible behaviors, and really our whole community for that matter, to be able to keep schools open. And just as a clarification, because this did come up at the last board meeting from one of our community comments, we do have some students who travel with Running Start and also attend school at the high school. I double checked that, so we in fact do have that. And so, you know, we're doing some extra work with those students too, just around the importance of the protocol and wearing their masks, and because that is really what will give us the best opportunity to be able to continue with the hybrid model. So I just wanted to add that piece from what Dr. Larson shared as well. But anybody else on the board have a question or something they want to add?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. So I also want to point out, you know, the platforms, we talked about that a little bit in the study session, and we started way back in May. We had to use federal dollars, the CARES dollars, to be able to purchase both Schoology and Edgenuity. And we started way back as soon as we knew that we were going to need something for distance learning. And you have a pretty rigorous process that you have to go through to spend federal monies. You have to put out bids, and you have to get the bids, and then you've got just this whole process that really took most of the summer. And so that wasn't ideal at all. And if we really would have liked to have more time to be able to share that with teachers and get things started. But again, a huge shout out to our teachers for persevering under some really tight timelines. It has been a real heavy lift for them. And I just appreciate their hard work and their perseverance. And I do think, as I talk to various folks, I know we still have areas to improve on. And I also think that we're beginning to be able to make that teaching and learning more fluid with students with accessing their online programs. We do still need to work on student engagement. We do have students who have maybe signed up for Virtual Academy and haven't participated the way they need to. So we're circling up together with principals, and we'll include teachers in on that to say, okay, what are some of the things that are working? And we also are going to put in some PD that I think will help us with that, and I'll show you that here in a second. We also have a new, and I am going to include this in the superintendent's update. We do have a way for parents, as well as students for that matter, if they're having technology types of issues, there is a website that they can go to put a help ticket in. And Mike Welch, our IT director, is doing a great job. And even if a student puts in something that's more related to Schoology or Edgenuity, he makes sure that that gets to the right person. So we have a good system in place for that. And we also have a new program called Bloxy. And what it does is it really is a great service that allows our parents more ability to monitor and control their students' internet access while at home. And early on, Mike did send out invitations to all parents to, in an email attached to their student's account, to access the parent dashboard. And just in case folks didn't see that, or if for some reason it didn't get to their email, Mike Welch is inviting parents to let them know if they want to have access to that. It might be a nice way to help support their students. I'm super excited about this potential for PD. There is a new PD book that came out. It's called the Distance Learning Playbook. And I'll see if I can kind of show you what it looks like. Oh, it's upside down. There it is. Maybe it looks backwards to you guys. Oh, there it is. because when I look at it, it's different. But I'm really excited about this because, we're all really, fairly new at distance learning and what it takes. And we're all trying really hard. And it's a lot more than just, plopping some programs in place. There's a lot more around how do we work with students, how do we help parents support their child when they're on the computer. And what I love about this PD is we are going to be offering it. We have a coach through OSSI, so she's going to be able to provide the PD without having to pay for a facilitator to come in, which saves us some money. This book is also written by the leading educational researchers, John Hattie, I've talked about him before, and Douglas Fisher and Nancy Frey, who are all very well known. So this isn't just a fly-by-night deal. These are real hardcore educational researchers who have put together, here's a compilation of best practices around distance learning. Now, the best part of that is not only are we going to be able to offer it and clock hours will be available for teachers, but they also have an administrator's distance learning playbook. So as soon as those are available, we're going to be able to support our administrators with that. And they have a parent distant learning playbook. So as soon as those get rolled out, we will start up some parent PDs and be able to get those playbooks in the hands of parents so that they can continue to learn more about distance learning and how to support their students in that mode of learning. As you know, we talked about project-based learning before, and we are circling back up with Megan Rivard from Pacific Education Institute, and she's going to do another session for K through 3 teachers on October 28th on field STEM and schoolyard investigations. What a great way to get kids outside. Give them a little break from their mask if they're 6 feet apart and it's not for very long. Anybody who wants to, basically, who clicks on this too, can get these resources for free. And I also believe that there's a stipend involved with this as well, participating in this for teachers. Just want to remind people that even though we're in this hybrid and distance learning, we're going full bore with Reader and Writers Workshop. Students still have opportunities to pick from virtual books or regular books for their independent learning time. Some of these little mini lessons, like a first grader at Lincoln listened to one of those and then wrote a story and was eager to share with their teacher, student that was in hybrid. And then we've got some great student celebrations. Jared Francis, you probably saw this in the Daily Record, ran a story on this too, is going to be a Wildcat. He joined the CWU Impact Team program. And so I'll send this out to you. You can click on that link and learn more about that program. We know he'll shine with Bulldog Pride, but he'll eventually become a Wildcat. We also want to have a huge shout out to Thomas Lenowinski and Elizabeth Shoda, who were selected to be the College Board National Rural and Small Town Recognition Program. And they earned this recognition because they had outstanding performances on the PSAT national assessment. So they ranked really high nationally, which I think says a lot about our amazing students and teachers who've supported them in their journey. Our career and technical education pathway, we've got some great opportunities happening there. And let me just pull that up. Our ag program's starting up again, they have many virtual activities, business and marketing, FBLA starting up again for our students, a lot of good leadership opportunities there. If some of you remember Melissa Lopez Barbosa, she was in the Cyber Patriot program. You were mentioning alums from EHS in the last meeting, Tosh. Well, here's an alum. She did the Cyber Patriot program at EHS and got hired to CWU's Security Services Department because of what she learned in the Cyber Patriot program. So there's a good example of what happened to one of our alums, and a huge success, I think. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so in this flyer that's also attached to the update are some great suggestions for how we can continue to have cybersecurity on our radar. And they are also starting up a Computer Science Honor Society chapter, which I think is huge in giving our students skills, those 21st century skills. Family and Consumer Science starting up with DECA. And we have a new construction club this year as a result of the skilled and technical science pathway. So just wanted to let people know we are running strong with these programs, and just a huge shout out to our teachers and the CTE department for all the great work that they're doing here as well. So that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Board, was there any questions or clarification?
I had one. I'm really sorry, Ginger. It didn't come up. I forgot about it, and then it came up later. It comes, but anyway, I'll get to it. I think it was really more about the opening or the schools. The question that had come up was the open lunches at the high school.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I was wondering if you could speak to that as to why the high school decided to do open lunches during COVID.
Yes, let me pull this up. I know that Bo had a good conversation with Dr. Larson, and as a result of that, I think what they decided was that, here it is. So here was Bo's response to that. He said, we were concerned about capacity for lunches, being able to house the students in the commons because there's no other space available. So, you know, the lunchroom is fairly small, and to think that we have to space every student apart 6 feet would be pretty hard if we close campus to put them in there and still have that 6 foot spacing. He said, we maxed out the seating capacity at 110 in the commons with 2 students per table. And then they became concerned about the safety of an average of 90 plus students in each lunch, with one lunch at 118, which would be beyond their capacity for keeping them 6 feet apart. And the question became, is that number of students safer with the masks off for 30 minutes than students leaving for lunch and returning? And then he said, when we talked to Dr. Larson, and he said it was a similar risk for students to leave or for students to stay in that situation, we felt the risk was similar, that it would alleviate any capacity question and keep students in the commons safer. So basically with the 30-minute, you know, students are basically running out, getting their lunch and coming back, and felt that by doing that, it alleviates space, allows for the students that do decide to stay on campus, gives more room for them to have that 6 foot spacing. And we did get Dr. Larson said it was okay, so let's give this a try. I do think that it'll be important for us to reach out to our local fast food restaurants though, and just let them know that, you know, please give us a call or let us know if there's any issues with kids, you know, being in groups and not doing their social distancing. But with 30 minutes, you know, it's pretty short time period anyway, but that's the second step, is to reach out to them too. And I think the high school has done some of that, is in the process of doing that. But that was the reason why we said, okay, well, let's try the open campus. But, you know, if students start bunching up and not doing social distancing, if it becomes a problem, then we would try to figure out another solution. But space is a real issue.
And that's been covered with the high school students, right? In their orientation, that they can't be carpooling and going off campus at lunches. I know that was a concern I heard from some community members, and I just really wanted to make sure that I'm relieved to hear that the decision was made for safety reasons, which I don't think often people would assume that was the case. So thank you for answering that.
Ginger, can you share a bit, as schools and teachers have transitioned to hybrid, how is that workload looking for our educators this year? do we have elementary teachers who are now teaching kids in a classroom and on screen at the same time? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so for elementary teachers, they have one class that we've split, right, a hybrid teacher. So some teachers in elementary are just virtual and they're working with their virtual students. Other teachers were hybrid. And I know the specialists have a different kind of schedule, but in no case at secondary or at elementary do we ever have a teacher that is teaching the kids that are in front of them and at the same time having another group of students on the screen and trying to teach this group and the group on the screen at the very same time. That does not happen in any part of our model, the way we have set that up. And I don't know of any teachers that have chosen to do it that way, because that would be, in my mind, a pretty impossible situation. Although I do know that there are schools in the country that did set it up that way. And I think it has been very difficult on teachers to do it that way. So in the elementary school, teachers in the hybrid have an A group and a B group. They have one class, they split it in half. They see the A kids on Monday, they'll see the B kids on Tuesday. On Wednesday, all of our teachers across the system have Wednesday as a day where even in the hybrid, do not have students in person. And they're using that day to work in their professional learning communities for any kind of professional development that they might need, planning. In some cases, doing some office hours or giving opportunities maybe to give some more one-on-one support for students. And we had a schedule that we put out, but we're also empowering our principals to work with their teachers to say what makes the most sense on that Wednesday to best support our staff and our students. But that day is primarily for those purposes. And so that's the elementary. Now at secondary, some secondary teachers have, like they would normally, if they have 5 classes, 2 of their classes might be, like if I'm a math teacher and I have freshmen, if I have algebra, maybe 2 of my algebra classes are hybrid classes. And then maybe my first and second period or algebra classes, third and fourth period, I might have 2 virtual classes, but it would be during those periods. It's never together at the same time. I think that's what you were asking.
Yes. And do teachers and educators still have prep times then?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Board, did anyone have any other questions?
I just have a comment that, and a thanks. I really want to thank the teachers for doing what they're doing. There's having this whole thing thrown on you. I mean, even starting from last March, they have done a huge job since then, and I can understand totally why they're frustrated, but you know, we're here for the kids, and what we can do for the kids is what really matters ultimately for the district. So kudos to the teachers.
Anybody else? Okay. We are moving on to proposed items for future consideration. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add?
I think I just heard earlier that you want to circle back and maybe do a session about the highly capable program and some of the data that we've collected as a result of doing the testing in a different way.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. And if we could do it before spring, that would be great. Because in spring, I know that we get an update, but yes. Anybody else?
I just wanted to confirm, I think we have a budget update coming. Is that right, Ginger? Or yeah.
Yep, Brian and his team, they're about ready to close the books. And then I think we're going to be doing a budget update like either at that, hopefully at that first meeting in November. If not, then that second one for sure.
All right. I do not see anyone else with proposed items for future consideration. We are now moving on to public comment. Public who would like to make a comment to the board, there is a Google form in the chat box. It is that when it says forms on it, please click on that and put your information in. That's how we're going to call on people. You may also always email the board at, we'll put that in also, board@esd401.org. That goes to all board members at the same time. All right, Matt, as you were getting things ready on your end, is it okay if I begin reading our guidelines?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, individuals wishing to be heard by the board will first be recognized by the chair. Individuals will add their names to the document that is in the Zoom chat box, or individuals will be recognized within Zoom. Once the chair calls on an individual, they will identify themselves by saying their name and address for the record. Individuals will proceed to make comments within the 3-minute time limit. In order to provide equal opportunity for comments, an individual's microphone will be turned off at the 3-minute time limit. The chair may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. The board as a whole has a final decision in determining the appropriateness of all such rulings. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act 4230, agendas and topic must be set in advance of the meeting. Board members will not respond to public comment during the meeting. Additionally, comments can be submitted to the board at board@esd401.org. Matt, are you ready?
Tasha, can I do a point of clarification?
Yes.
I just looked to see how many people are with us, and we have, it looks like 60 participants. I'm just wondering, we have had public comments that have gone 2 hours. Do we need to do a limitation just in case all 60 people want to talk, which is great, but I just want to make sure, do we want to limit it to an hour just in case, or?
We currently have 7 members signed up. Matt, did you want to add something?
No, I was just pointing out that we had 7 signed up.
But if we need to, Jason, the board can restrict the time to it, because we definitely have had some long comment periods, which we want everyone to be able to comment. But we also have that email. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay. So yes, Matt, you are ready?
That is correct.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Heather Stuman. Heather, I'm gonna try to take you, it should ask you to unmute.
Got it, thank you. On September 30th, this board made the decision to return ESD students and staff to in-person schooling, despite our COVID-19 numbers clearly placing our county in the red zone at 114 cases per 100K. It did so by agreeing to an interpretation of dashboard data that artificially removes Central Washington University students from our county's numbers as if they live in isolation in an isolation chamber on campus and have no interaction with people and places in our community. It did so in violation of a legally binding MOU between ESD teachers and administration. It did so in violation of state and regional guidelines for the safe reopening of schools by amending the reopening plan upon which families and staff made decisions. Since the board voted to amend the reopening plan, the numbers in our county have continued to rise at an alarming rate. Presently, our county sits at 230 cases per 100K, more than triple the top end of the recommended community cases for in-person schooling. Those thresholds were established by scientists working in institutions such as the CDC, a highly esteemed institution in the scientific community. Those thresholds were based on data as well as the implications for ongoing spread. They are not arbitrary numbers. As the numbers of folks with COVID-19 infection in our community continue to rise, at what point will the board decide to return ESD students and staff to the safety of remote learning? And what metrics will be used to make that determination? Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Donna Grassel. Sorry, Donna, I'm trying to get so you can unmute.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Donna Grassel, 200 Cedar Cove Road. I am a middle school math teacher. I'm also the president of the Ellensburg Education Association, but tonight I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I was listening to the study session prior to the meeting, and there were several things that I wanted to address with you. First of all, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you being at Morgan Middle School the day we opened a week and a half ago. Lots of people saw you there and commented that they appreciated you being there to represent the district. And you also, Dan, spoke about burnout. A teacher had mentioned burnout to you. And so I did want to clarify something. Most secondary teachers do indeed have 3 different sections. They have the A group that's probably sitting in front of them on a Monday or a Thursday. They have their B group that will be there the following day. And most secondary teachers also teach virtual classes. I only have 1 virtual class. Other teachers have more than 1, but almost all of us have 3 different sections. So there are some other misconceptions that you might have about Virtual Academy. Happy to clear that up with you when I'm not on a timer. Third thing, Jason, you mentioned the software issue, and I can assure you that we are using it correctly, but it is a very cumbersome program and it simply does not sync with Skyward, which we are required to use for attendance and for grades. But I did want you to know that we are in fact using it correctly. Mrs. Stuman already addressed my issues with the amending of the reopening plan, so I'll skip that part and I'll just talk about the case numbers. I too have great confidence in our public health system and a great deal of respect for Dr. Larson. I've been in the Wednesday Zoom meetings with him for several months now, and I'm quite grateful for his expertise. Last Wednesday, the case numbers when we went into the Zoom meeting were 126.7. And in that meeting, Dr. Larson clearly stated that it is the decision to close schools would be the decision made by the district, not by him. He said very clearly that he would make a recommendation to close if certain circumstances came about. And I'm kind of like Meg, I write things down. I always have a notebook, I'm always writing things down. So I wrote down exactly what he said. These are the circumstances where he said that, sorry, my dog, where he said that we would need to have a greater discussion about the face-to-face model. Number 1, if a student dies, we would need to rethink this model. Number 2, if there's a large uptick of cases in the community, also if there's a spread between central and the community, or if there's a large outbreak in a school. Those were the different circumstances. So remember, 1 was an uptick. Today, instead of 126.7, our number is
All right, thank you, Donna. I'm going to try to find Autumn Grassel. Autumn, I'm going to try to get to unmute for you. Autumn, I think you are off mute, just so you know. No, Autumn, we can't hear you. Autumn, can you potentially, can you test your speaker? I'll come back to you. Okay. Then the chair recognizes Kathy Day.
All right, so Kathy Day, 503 West Bender Road. I am the high school librarian and I'm a virtual English teacher. And I'm the chief negotiator for EEA, but I'm speaking on behalf of just myself tonight. Heard a lot of shout outs, which I appreciate when they're merited. The shout outs to the admin and to the teachers and to everybody that is out there doing the heavy lifting. Certainly were deserved. My shout out is to Mr. White, who is better at speaking out of both sides of his mouth than anyone that I've listened to lately. And I want to remind you that as teachers in this district, we have to have a college degree, which means that we probably understand rhetoric, we understand transparency, and we understand when someone's feeding us a line of bull. And you can't bring up salaries during every single meeting and conversation and insinuate or outright say that we're overpaid for what we do, and then turn around and praise us and say things like, we knew this was coming and everyone had a chance to be a virtual teacher, when that is not true, and then turn another corner and praise us and think that the teachers are going to be out here not wondering what the possible purpose could be to disenfranchise the educators who, if you want to talk about a hierarchy of power, are the power that runs this district. When we talk about kids first, who's teaching them? Who is juggling everything right now in order to make sure that they're getting everything that we can possibly give them? It's the teachers. If it's a pyramid, we are the base. I want the whole board to start calling this what it is. It's an experiment right now with our health and safety. We want to be back. We want to be back with the kids, but we don't want to hear rhetoric that seems to question our very worth. We don't want to hear shout outs and praise like nothing has gone wrong. We need support. We need you to get real. We need you to really look at what's happening. Parents know what's happening. Kids know what's happening. Administrators know what's happening. Talk about real issues like our mental health of our children, how we're going to grade 30 to 50% of the high school kids who are failing, and how we're going to move forward through these very difficult times. Thank you.
We're going to move on to the next person. I do want to remind the public that we do not call out people by name. Next time you can say a board member. Autumn, I'm going to try this again. Hopefully, oh, there, good, I see you. I couldn't see. Let's try it. So I'm going to try to unmute.
I think I'm ready.
Yes, it works.
Awesome, thank you. I dialed in my phone. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. I know that a lot of members of the public don't attend the school board meeting on a regular basis, so thanks for being here tonight and considering in these times what everyone has to say. I want to start by understanding a point that a board member made earlier, that safety is not absolute, but something I'd like to ask the board is, have you asked yourselves what you could be doing to improve safety in the buildings in this school district? What are 3 things that you aren't doing right now that you could be doing? And in talking with educators in your district about what's happening, one thing that I think is crucial that's missing as a part of this plan is, how are we testing in Kittitas County? I've heard that you have to have symptoms to get a test case in Kittitas County right now, but we know that there's asymptomatic spread of this virus, and that seems like something that's missing as a part of our protocols that are being used in this district. I also want to point out that this board has elected to open all of its schools in a period of 3 weeks. Other districts in this area have decided to put 3 weeks in between the opening of grade levels in their schools. For example, Ephrata School District has put forward that kindergarten through grade 5 opened on Monday, October 19th, but they are planning to expand after evaluating if cases are still in a safe space, and maybe opening grade 6 starting November 6th, and maybe opening grades 9 through 12 starting November 3rd, or no, November 30th, excuse me. In Othello, their reentry plan is also phased to have K through 3 starting to open November 4th, grades 4 through 6 starting November 30th, grade 7 starting January 4th, and grades 8 through 12 starting January 25th. Sela has opened starting October 19th with a half-day A and B hybrid for grades K through 5 with the potential to evaluate a full-day expansion. On November 9th, they are considering reopening grades 6 through 8, depending on what happens, and looking at December 7th, a date looking at grades 9 through 12. Looking at what other districts are doing, I consider what this board has done to be irresponsible. I forgot to state my address earlier. I live at 2013 43rd Avenue Northeast, 43rd Avenue East in Seattle, Washington.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Jamie Multeen.
Yes, thank you. I'm Jamie Multeen. I live at 1100 East 3rd Avenue. I'm a teacher at Morgan Middle School, a parent of 2 students in the district, a member of our building leadership team, a member of the district technology team, and today I am speaking for myself. Oh, and PLC coordinator. So what, first of all, thank you, board, for the work that you do for our community. And I appreciate the hard choices that you've had to make. I don't agree with everyone that's been made, but that's different. I believe I want to finish part of what Donna Grassel was trying to say. Our numbers are now at 223 per 100,000, which I think people are aware of. And she stated the things that Dr. Larson had said would cause him to shut down the school. So, and one of those being the death of a student. Is that what it's going to take for the board? Are you going to wait long enough for this experiment to end in the death of a student or a staff member? Or are you going to take action previous to that? Because if we wait for Dr. Larson, that's what it could come to. He has clearly put the ball in our court, and we need to take responsibility for that. I would also like to comment about a board member's comments about funding and teachers. And I want to make sure that that everyone is looking closely at the choices that are being made. For example, the money that went into training us on Google Classroom and on all the programs that we were using in the spring and preparing us to be ready for what we needed to do this fall. And then the decisions to undermine all of that training and all of that work by choosing other programs that we didn't have a lot of input in, and then giving them to this at the last minute. Other people have referred to the trainings that have been given to us, but then today she said that those trainings didn't go as smoothly as they should have, which was the actual truth, which seemed to have been covered up previously. So I'm hoping that we don't make too many more drastic changes, because it's really hard for us to continue to keep up with the changes that keep happening. I know people are trying really hard to figure out the new programs, but also hesitant because we're afraid that all of that work will be for nothing, because it will just be changed and the rug will be pulled out from us again. Also, I wanted to address that students no longer get us on their off days in the hybrid model. They do not see us on the days when they're not here, because we are teaching the other group, and so we cannot attend to those students. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Stacy Hammond. Stacy, I'm trying to help you unmute.
Oh, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Stacy Hammond, and I'm at 308 North Sampson Street. Obviously, I brought a lot of contention in the past because of the seriousness of the situation. As all of the people that have spoken tonight, what do I want to say? It's heavy. It's heavy. And we hear a lot of different things, like, I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm afraid my kids are going to die. I don't feel like the laws being followed. I think Mrs. Stuman spoke directly to the board that you are committing illegal actions, right? You're violating policies with the union. That's what she basically just said. I want the truth to be spoken. I have written the board. Apparently you're lawyers, because you asked me to. I've spoken with Dr. Larson. The bottom line, this board has deliberately avoided the issues of religious freedom when it comes to masking. I have just finally, after all of this, been given the Region 7 document that the Public Health Department, Dr. Larson, and 3 other public health departments sent to the board. It was unsigned. It didn't have any WAC or RCW to back it. and it only allowed for medical exemptions. It did not allow for any religious or philosophic exemptions or legal exemptions or mental health or behavioral service exemptions. At the bottom of that document, it links the state's exemptions, and the state's exemptions do tell the districts to adopt exemptions that will include at a bare minimum legal and mental health exemptions, for instance, for rape victims, child rape victims, or adult rape victims, to be able to have behavioral health, okay? Because it doesn't have to be a medical doctor, right? Psychologists matter, okay? Pastors matter. And you have denied us that. You are not even following the bare minimum state requirements for exemption. So I have 6 kids sitting at home with no education, because I will not allow this board to violate my constitutional rights, even if that means there was an individual from this group here tonight that's on here for admin that said he would sleep with a mask on if it meant that his kids could get educated twice a week in hybrid. I was like, I don't care. I will do anything it takes, including death, okay, to my death, every ounce of my being, to make sure that my kids' religious freedoms are not violated and mine aren't, okay? So I will continue to press the district to enable exemptions for philosophic, legal, behavioral health, and religious exemptions for masking. You will allow us to have that. You're denying it to my family, and you will not deny it to us. Our constitutional rights trump. You need to put it in front of the Supreme Court. A Washington State Supreme Court can hear it. The United States Supreme Court can hear it. You don't get to deny us and force us to put things on our face. Thank you very much. Until the Supreme Court says so, until your Washington State Supreme Court says so, you guys do not say so, okay? Dr. Larson's even admitted he can't. It's your decision. He put it in writing in my inbox. It's your decision, not his. He can't make those decisions. He can only make recommendations. And he's a...
Thank you. The chair recognizes Liz Ritzenthaler. Liz, you're not on mute.
Everybody there? Here we go. I just have ongoing concerns about the board's amendment at the last meeting. I do understand the board makes, but I agree with others that have spoken tonight that this board has failed to put forth a safe reopening strategy. I felt at the beginning of the last board meeting that the district and Dr. Larson together had advised a staggered restart, and that staggered restart was based on science. It wasn't 1 week, the next week, and the next week. That was one that gave the district time to take a deep breath, not a week to see what numbers have done in the last 7 days, but it is all about trends. And our trends are doing nothing except for going up exponentially. I really appreciate the statistics from adjacent districts that also highlight that there are other ways to do this. I feel like this board was very much swayed by a very small district down the road in our county. And if they want to make a decision that bucks the trends, then that's their call. But we have thousands of kids in this district, and we have guidelines that have come down not very well, so much from the federal level, but I feel like our state has been really clear from the start. I don't feel like our health district makes decisions in a vacuum. There's been a regional group commenting on when these things are supposed to happen. And I would very much agree that it's a very artificial separation to think that we're not intricately linked to Central. And when our numbers are over 220 per 100,000, and it's not a Monday, you know, this is a bump that's happening every day. These cases are showing up in our workplaces, and a lot of parents are essential. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes, and I want to apologize because I have seen this name on Morgan Middle School's faculty, and I know I'm going to say it wrong. Sia Aronica.
Can you hold for just a second while I get the timer reset?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Matt, do you want to reset that timer to 3 minutes? Can you do that?
Yeah, can you give me just a moment? I'm having a technical issue on it.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Sia Aronica.
Go ahead.
My name is Sia Aronica. You did great with the pronunciation. Thank you. I am my address is 1313 North Willow Street. I am a teacher at Morgan Middle School. I am a parent of students within our district. And I just want to make comment on some of the things that have been brought up. I am speaking for myself. Some of the things that have brought up that bother me. One of them that was brought up was that the teacher salaries take up over 80% of our budget. I would like to draw attention that maybe we need to check out the admin building because we are top heavy in our admin building. I would like to mention some of the numbers that Heather Stuman brought up, and she brought up the fact that our numbers have gone from our decision process from 113 to where we are at currently 230. That is doubled in the last 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. That's an uptick in our numbers. Those are numbers that were the guidelines given to us by the CDC. And while, yes, we have our central students being part of our community, I don't think that it's being taken into account. We're trying to isolate them. And I think that that is something that is not valid because they do live and reside, shop at our stores, and work within our businesses. The students that go to lunches from our high schools are going to establishments where central students work and shop within our stores. Mrs. Grassel mentioned some of the reasons that Dr. Larson would recommend that schools closed, and again, that he definitely states that it is a school decision, a school district, school board decision, not a health department decision, which means that we as a district, our board, our administration, are responsible for that decision based on his recommendations. And the ones that he mentioned, one that she mentioned, is an uptick in numbers. We can see by the numbers and the trend going almost double that there's definitely an uptick in those numbers. So one of his things is a student dies. I hope we don't wait until that point in time. Some of the things that were brought up about teachers being able to be hybrid or online teachers, we were not given the option to be virtual teachers. We could put the information in, but if those positions were not available, which only 1/3 of our students are there, which means not all of our teachers can be virtual teachers. Many of our teachers have to be hybrid teachers. As hybrid teachers, we do have hybrid classes, A days and B days, and we have virtual classes and virtual students. We no longer have time to work with our virtual students, and we don't have time to really work with our hybrid students. The students have less time to have access to teachers, and it is a concern. We have more students failing now than we did before.
Thank you. Superintendent Haber, is there anything that you would like to clarify? All right, thank you everyone for your public comments. You can always email the board at board@esd401.org. Do we have an executive session tonight? Do we have clarification on the board calendar?
Just that Hilda and I believe, are going, I don't have my calendar with me, on Monday. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Do we need a Zoom address for that, or how are they gonna do it?
Is that for the regional meeting, Dan?
Yeah, yes. I assume they're gonna send us one.
Yeah, they send one out.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
And just so you're aware, that is on your calendar invite. It was sent out to you. So if you look in your Google Calendar, you'll be able to see that.
Oh, okay, thanks.
All right, clarification and next steps. We're good, all right. Matt, you will help us with the signing of official documents, getting people there when you need them to be.
Yes, that is correct. And we do have documents that need to be signed.
All right, so board, make those arrangements to get those documents signed. It is 8 o'clock, and with a motion, this board can be adjourned. Dan moves.
I'll second.
Jason seconded. All right, with a thumbs up, this board is adjourned. All right, thank you.